Welcome back to 10-Minute Timelines. The 1930s were a time of immense global tension. The Treaty of Versailles, signed after World War I, imposed severe military and territorial restrictions on Germany, fueling economic hardship and national resentment. This festered within the German population, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies. In Italy, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime rose to power, promising national rejuvenation through expansion and military might. Across the globe, Japan, driven by militaristic ambitions, had already begun expanding in Asia, invading Manchuria in 1931 and launching a full-scale war against China in 1937. The world watched with bated breath, the seeds of a new global conflict being sown. On September 27, 1940, in Berlin, Germany, Italy and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact, formally establishing the Axis powers. This was distinct from the Pact of Steel, a 1939 military alliance between Germany and Italy. The alliance that would become known as the Axis powers did not emerge overnight. It was the culmination of years of diplomatic maneuvering and shared ideological affinities. The initial foundation was laid in 1936 with the signing of the Rome-Berlin Axis. This agreement, a reflection of the growing camaraderie between Hitler and Mussolini, formalized the burgeoning partnership between Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. Later that year, Germany and Japan signed the Anti-Comintern Pact, a largely symbolic agreement against the Soviet Union, which Italy later joined in 1937. This agreement targeted the Soviet Union and the perceived threat of international communism. While not a formal military alliance, it signaled a convergence of interests between the two rising powers, both bent on territorial expansion and the overthrow of the existing world order. These initial agreements laid the groundwork for a more formal alliance. The stage was set for the formation of a formidable alliance that would challenge the very foundations of the international system. On September 27, 1940, in Berlin, Germany, Italy and Japan signed the Tripartite Pact. This agreement, known as the Pact of Steel, formally established the Axis powers. The Pact's preamble framed it as a commitment to mutual prosperity and a new world order. However, its key clause pledged military assistance if any signatory was attacked by a country not already engaged in the European or Pacific conflicts, primarily aimed at discouraging US intervention. The Tripartite Pact marked a turning point in the war. It solidified the Axis alliance, extending its reach across Europe and Asia. The pact sent a clear message to the world. Germany, Italy and Japan were united in their ambition to dismantle the existing international system and establish their own dominance. The Axis powers, each led by a charismatic and ruthless dictator, embraced expansionist ambitions and a disdain for democracy and individual liberty. Adolf Hitler, driven by his warped vision of racial purity and German dominance, sought to establish a vast Aryan empire stretching across Eastern Europe. Benito Mussolini, a fervent nationalist, dreamed of restoring the Roman Empire's glory through military conquest and territorial expansion. In Japan, Emperor Hirohito, while revered as a living god, was largely a symbolic figure as military leaders like Prime Minister Hideki Tojo directed Japan's expansionist policies. These men, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of nationalism, militarism and racial superiority, dragged the world into a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality. The years leading up to the official outbreak of World War II in 1939 were marked by a series of aggressive actions by the Axis powers. Emboldened by the inaction of the international community, Germany, Italy and Japan pursued their expansionist ambitions with increasing audacity. In 1939, Germany, after signing a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, invaded Poland, triggering the start of World War II. Italy, eager to share in the spoils of war, joined the conflict in 1940. Japan, already embroiled in a brutal war with China since 1937, continued its campaign of conquest in Southeast Asia. The United States, while officially neutral, provided material aid to Great Britain and its allies. However, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, shattered American isolationism. The date, which will live in infamy, as President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared, propelled the United States into the war, transforming the conflict into a truly global struggle. The Axis powers, initially triumphant, soon faced a formidable alliance: the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. The tide began to turn against the Axis. On the Eastern Front, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941, became a catastrophic miscalculation. The vastness of the Soviet Union, coupled with the fierce resistance of the Red Army and the brutal Russian winter, sapped German strength and morale. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway in June 1942 marked a turning point. The decisive American victory crippled the Japanese fleet and checked their advance in the Pacific. The protracted and bloody battles of Guadalcanal, Iwo Jima and Okinawa further weakened Japan's hold on its conquered territories. In Europe, the Allied landings in Normandy on D-Day, June 6, 1944, opened a second front, forcing Germany to fight a two-front war it could not win. By 1945, the Axis powers faced inevitable defeat. Their armies shattered, their economies in ruins, their cities reduced to rubble. The once mighty Axis crumbled under the combined might of the Allied powers. In April 1945, Soviet troops reached the outskirts of Berlin. As the city burned around him, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his underground bunker, ending the 1,000-year Reich he had envisioned. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945. In the Pacific, Japan, though facing imminent defeat, refused to surrender. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945, events that ushered in the nuclear age, finally forced Japan's unconditional surrender on September 2, 1945. World War II was over, leaving behind a world scarred by unimaginable destruction and loss. The defeat of the Axis powers had profound consequences for the post-war world. The war reshaped the geopolitical landscape, leading to the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, locked in a decades-long ideological and geopolitical struggle known as the Cold War. The horrors of the war, particularly the Holocaust, led to the creation of the United Nations, a successor to the League of Nations, with the goal of preventing future conflicts and promoting international cooperation. The war also had a profound impact on the global economy, leading to the establishment of the Bretton Woods system, which aimed to stabilize currencies and foster international trade. While the Axis powers shared some ideological similarities, militarism, nationalism and anti-communism, their motivations were not identical. Nazi Germany was driven by racial ideology and Lebensraum, territorial expansion for the German people. Fascist Italy sought imperial restoration, and Imperial Japan aimed for dominance in Asia under the Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. Their defeat serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked aggression, the allure of extremist ideologies, and the importance of international cooperation in maintaining peace and stability. The lessons of World War II remain as relevant today as they were in the aftermath of that devastating conflict. As we navigate a world grappling with new challenges and threats, remembering the mistakes of the past is essential to securing a more peaceful and prosperous future.